gentlemen, what you gonna do? Brother. The only thing I can say, what a difference a year makes. Well, you know, you're exactly right, Mean Gene. 1 year ago, we were friends, and if you would have told me 1 year later that we'd be locking horns, I'd have called you a liar, Mean Gene. Brother.
With all the fun, that you and I had, Starrcast V, Ric Flair's last match.
Loads of fun.
Do you remember the first really big rumored opponent for Rick?
I think it was a brother.
It was the Hulkster. I mean, Rick even invited him to his roast. Rick invited him to the show. And I mean, they showed Undertaker, they showed Bret Hart, they showed Mick Foley. No Hulk Hogan. You know why I think that is?
Why is that?
I was flipping through the good book here. Just got to get to that section. All right. It's right here. It says Starrcast VI, Hulk Hogan's last match.
Is this breaking news?
I mean, Conrad is not here.
Oh shit. Okay.
But Logan's scripture book is. So I mean, who puts more butts in seats? But I guess before you get to a match card, you got to kind of figure out where it's going to be at, right?
Right.
It's narrowed down here to 2 spots. Because I think so. For those not in the know, the reason that Ric Flair had the match in Tennessee is because that was one of the few places that approved for him to wrestle. Like, even though wrestling, it's fake, you still have to, at over 70 years old with a pacemaker, have a doctor tell you can do this.
True. Yeah.
And he found, an old doc down in Tennessee, paid him enough money, had the match. I think Hogan, I know he's got the back problems, but from what I've seen, he's rehabbed it well. I think most places, especially when he says, listen, brother, all I need to do is throw a couple punches, do an axe bob, Hulk up, maybe do a boot if the leg can do it, maybe a slam, and then a leg drop, 1, 2, 3. That's all I gotta do, brother. Anyone would allow him to do it. I think it'd be Florida or Minnesota. Florida makes sense. He's from Florida. He first really worked and got trained in Florida. The reason that I say Minnesota, one, it's a wrestling hotbed. It's where the first Nitro was filmed. It's where AWA had all of its wrestling at. AWA is also where Hogan really struck it big once he was let go by WWF for being in Rocky III. I think it tied all together, Plus, it's northern. Hogan's always looked at as the northern guy. But I think Florida or Minnesota would work. I know he was originally from Venice Beach, California, but that's really the only connection there. He never really wrestled out in California.
No.
I don't think Hogan's last match is big enough for Madison Square Garden. I know that this is kind of a fantasy booking in itself.
Say Hogan can't draw.
But I'll say in my personal fantasy, the first spot I thought of was Madison Square Garden. I don't think I don't think he could fill it. Not with just a little card like this. Now, if he came back at Mania and a Madison Square Garden show, 100%. Something like this, I think you've got to do it in Minnesota or Florida. Obviously, Conrad would help put it on because clearly the man has a lot of money and a lot of love for wrestling. I think your commentary team is going to be Eric Bischoff because, since it's Hogan, Bischoff has to be involved.
Right.
And I'm thinking Jesse Ventura. That's another Minnesota connection. But also, Jesse was like one of the first heel managers to really, try and shit on Hogan. Bobby Heenan's obviously the biggest one that comes to mind, but he's been long gone. Can't be Bobby. So I think Ventura's a good one that can come in and do it. And that could be a whole thing where he supports the people that Hogan's facing. I'll get to that later. But you can't just have Hogan's last match as the only match on the card. I mean, that was our worry with the Ric Flair one. Is that we were going to pay this money and the only match we'd see for the night is Ric Flair. And I think you'll agree with me here that the other matches definitely made the night more fun.
Yeah.
So I'd start the night. So the Ric Flair one started with a bunkhouse brawl because that's NWA Dusty Rhodes. I'd start this one. I'd have a foreign menace come out, kind of talk down the crowd. America sucks, or I'm from his best, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't have Hogan come out and stop him. Recently, Hacksaw Jim Duggan became cancer-free for a second time. Jim Duggan is in that group of friends of Hulk Hogan's. So I think it'd be a nice little tribute for Jim Duggan. It'd be a nice way to get him on the show, because he's not going to wrestle a match now. I have him come out with a 2x4, stop the foreign menace, and what is more Hulk Hogan than stopping a foreign menace? So it'd be a great way to kick off the show, get the fans up. You'd have a legend appearance. We got a couple more as the show goes on. My next match will be an Extreme Rules match, and it'd incorporate people from the NWA and the AWA at time of this recording. I figure with my luck, once I lay this all out, say where people are from, someone's going to quit or defect. So I just want to say at time of this recording.
September 2nd, 2022.
Yeah. So I've got on one side of it Matt Hardy and Christian, because I don't want Jeff Hardy on the card. I don't want him anywhere near it. I've got Matt Hardy here because he's kind of been connected with Hogan for a while. They were in Impact together. Matt Hardy looked up to Hogan. So Hardy and Christian, it makes sense. Kind of the two lessers of their tag team, but we don't have to look at it that way.
No, the two greater thans.
Yeah. They would face Bully Ray. You're not going to get the Dudleys together. Which, side note, I heard that the Dudleys are getting back together for a match for some indie promotion ECW tribute show later this year.
Really?
Yeah. I thought Devon had strokes. Like, how... I don't know how it's going to work, but good on them. So Bully Ray's partner, not going to be Devon, not going to be Spike, because he's retired too.
He's a teacher.
I'd have it be Rob Van Dam. Rob Van Dam, again, someone that when Hogan did his Australian tour, I've touched on this on the podcast, when talking about Ric Flair after he retired the first time. RVD went over there. RVD was one of the first big names Hogan brought with him to Impact. And Hogan never really screwed over RVD because they were both baby faces in different companies. When they were both in WWE together, RVD was kind of mid-card. So I think a good opening match, RVD Bully Ray against Matt Hardy and Christian, Extreme Rules. They could recreate, all the spots that the tag teams made famous. I'd have RVD and Bully Ray go over in this one, just because I've got a little more AEW representation. And I don't think Tony Khan really needs Matt Hardy and Christian to look good. The next match would be AEW versus MLW. Pentagon Jr. versus Puma King. Two great Lucha stars. They were both focused heavily on Lucha Underground. and Pentagon Jr., obviously with AEW right now, Puma King with MLW. That's right, have AEW get a win back. Pentagon Jr. would win if needed. A lot of times in AAA and other Mexican matches, you have tag team partners run out, kind of the whole shebang of a lot of outside interference. You could have Phoenix help Pentagon Jr., his brother, win, which would be a nice kind of little nod to the Ric Flair show. And then Phoenix at that one. My next one, this would be kind of a slower match. But again, you got to remember this is a Hulk Hogan show, not a Ric Flair one. It's going to be slower. It's going to feature more of his friends because he still has wrestling friends who can still perform. We've got PCO on the Impact side of things, facing off against Nasty Boy Jerry Sags, being accompanied by Brian Knobbs and Jimmy Hart. I'd have PCO win this one, because even though Jerry Sags is a friend of Hulk Hogan, the Nasty Boys are kind of like the Dudleys and other teams have touched on before. Nobody wants to see one Nasty Boy win. You want to see the team. So it'll be a nice moment to have them both out there, especially with Knobbs, the health issues.
Yeah, I remember Knobbs from Starrcast this year.
Yeah, not doing too good. Hopefully, if this, when this happens, if this happens, he'd make it. We'll see. PCO still doing a lot of crazy shit for being older. He was actually Pierre Alouette in the Quebecers in the early 90s. So he's got a little Hogan connection there. I don't know 100% if they're friendly. I know Hogan was friendly with the Rougeaus, and one of the Rougeaus was in the Quebecers, so maybe a little Hogan dust rubbed off. My next, I have it as a segment. I couldn't nail down exactly who from the Indies I'd want this to be, but I'd want it to kind of be the Matt Cardona role, where he comes out and complains that he's not on the card, he wants a match, he's in his gear, send anyone out, he'll take on anyone that's there. And then the Ric Flair show had a Titantron. So this is when the Titantron would then zoom to a security door. Someone would knock on the door, and Bill Goldberg would come out. Goldberg and Hogan, again, cordial with each other. Goldberg said the only thing that Hogan ever did wrong to him was his whole body was covered in icy hot when they had their famed WCW title match. So Goldberg couldn't see for part of it, but the fact that Hogan didn't screw him at that point showed he respected him. You'd have Goldberg come out. Yes, clearly this is kind of a Hogan WCW tribute show as opposed to just Hogan WWF, but it's because I don't think, even with Trips taking over, that we'd see a lot of WWE talent. Plus, kind of a bummer to think about, who from Hogan's golden era besides Jimmy Hart could you really have take part in this? I mean, if you go down the list, Piper, Orndorff, Savage, Warrior, Andre, John Studd, Bundy, Bossman, yeah, they're all gone. Not really a lot left in that golden era that worked with Hogan. I mean, some people had a tag team match here or there, or he main evented with them, like the Genius. There's not a whole lot. Obviously, Goldberg would win. Squash him, spear, jackhammer. That could be the WWE representation at this show. You know, just a part-time Legends deal thing. The next match I call the Battle of the Kings. This would be the Macho Man tribute. You'd have Lanny Poffo as the guest referee. Jay Lethal would be Black Machismo. He'd represent the Ring of Honor here, Ring of Honor and AEW. Come out in all the Black Machismo garb. The lead up to this could be his opponent would say that he's the real king, and that Black Machismo has just been a wash, a farce the whole time. His opponent would be none other than Matt Cardona. For those not paying attention to him on the Indies, he's been doing some pretty good things. He's been NWA champion. Pretty sure he's been GCW champion.
We don't blame you if you haven't been paying attention to him either.
Yes, he's on Impact. He's done a lot. But while in GCW, He's come out a couple times wearing the Macho King gimmick, but he's called himself the Deathmatch King. And I think with all the tributes that he's done to Macho Man in matches as it is, you can kind of have him go back and forth. And I'm sure for both these guys, it would be just great to be able to be the Macho Man in front of Lanny Poffo. Lethal got to do it at All In. And I mean, you gotta have Lethal win this one. If it's a Macho Man match,
Do you know what you need? You know what? We could have Lanny Poffo do at the show.
What are you gonna have him do?
Have him suck his own dick.
You know, you say that. That's not even the worst thing that could happen in this match, because I have a little note written down here, and all it says is Lex Luger ?
Oh no. Okay.
But yeah, you have the Black Machismo versus Macho King match, or Deathmatch King, excuse me. Jay Lethal win with an elbow. The next one, which was my favorite part about doing this, is you have the NWO versus the Bullet Club. That, you know, the two teams that never got to face off. How people say the NWO, the Bullet Club clearly copied the NWO, or that the Bullet Club is clearly better than the NWO. I don't know which two Bullet Club members you have, because they're always rotating, and I know some of them don't like losing, some of them do. But I think you have them face X-Pac and Cody Hall, being managed by Kevin Nash, to kind of represent the NWO as a whole. Cody's about his dad's size. He can do his dad's moves. X-Pac is still in shape. I'm sure if Kevin wanted, he could hit a jackknife on someone.
Yeah.
You clearly have the NWO win here. You have him wear those good Scott Hall tribute shirts that either Pro Wrestling Tees or WWE made. I mean, it would be a good match. It'd be a nice, because it's always been one of those things. Who would win? NWO, Bullet Club. We got to kind of see NWO and DX at the one WrestleMania.
That's what I forget.
Yeah. I mean, so having Cody, Pac, and Nash, and I mean, like I said, with Pac still being in wrestling shape, Cody, he'd be a good substitute for his dad. But again, again, in a bummer way, that's about as close as you'll get. I mean, if you go through the members, Hogan's going to be main event in this show. No Scott Hall, Pac and Nash. Then you've got, you know, like your Kurt Hennings. Conan can't wrestle anymore. You know, Stevie Ray's not going to draw money. It's the truth. But, I mean, these are all good side dishes, some good matches. It would draw people in. I didn't really do as many indie matches. I tried doing it, like I said, it's more Hogan-centric, which is what I kind of wish the Flair one would have been. Like, there's a couple matches that had Flair connections, but I wish they all did.
Yeah.
But your main event...
It just seemed like an indie supercard with Ric
Yeah,
Flair.
it was essentially all in of 2022.
Yeah.
But
But
so,
it didn't have like any really too big of names, I don't think.
No. I mean, it had the biggest indie names that weren't signed anywhere else,
Yeah.
which is what All In tried to do. But, so I think the Hogan match is the only one that would really get a lot of build-up. I would have, and it's funny to say this because I talked about WWE involvement earlier, I'd have Hogan appear on AEW before the show is, you know, talked about, have him just kind of appear. You know, I'm Hogan, brother. It's good to see wrestling back at where it's at. Wrestling is wrestling. I've been doing this for a long time.
I'm sorry,
dude. And then the lights go out, and the Jericho Appreciation Society's in the ring. They take him out that week. They stand tall over him. And then the next week, in an interview segment backstage, we have Paul White asking them, why would you do this? You know, that was Hogan. Chris, he was our friend. And then Jericho talks about how he's tired of part-timers trying to be Chris Jericho. Reinvent themselves, show up on other shows, be the man, reclaim the glory they had. He's sick of it. And that's Paul White would tell him, well, you know, Hogan's going to be here tonight to confront you. And that's he tells him, let him. You know, Jericho's in the ring, Hogan tries to call him out. Jericho starts beating him down. Paul White runs down for the save, and he knockout punches Hogan.
Oh.
Schiavone's going crazy on commentary. Doesn't know why he would do that. Paul White grabs a mic and says, I've been with AEW for a little over 2 years now, and I've had a handful of damn matches. I've barely got any TV time. I'm a giant for damn sake. I was the only person to win all the major heavyweight titles of all the major promotions. WWE, WCW, ECW. Am I leaving out AEW? Yeah, because it's not a major promotion. It's a pissant company that Chris and I have came to and made money off of. Do I want to see someone like Hogan come back and get any sort of spotlight after he held me down in WCW? Made me a joke? After he held me down in WWE and slammed me when he was damn near 70 years old? No. Chris was right, and we're going to end Hulkamania here. Couple weeks go by. Hogan comes out again. And that's when it'll be somewhere where Conrad is in the crowd, and Hogan announces Starrcast VI. Hogan looks into the camera and says, I want Jericho and Paul White. They come to the stage, they make fun of him. You know, who are you going to get for a partner? You going to get Macho Man? You going to get Warrior? Who are you going to get, one of your NWO buddies, Scott Hall?
Boo.
Better yet, why don't you call Vince McMahon? I'm sure he'll team with you, Hulkster. And then Hall, you know, grabs his chin like he does, looks around. I'll find a partner. And after weeks of looking, Hulk Hogan, and this is probably where this is gonna go off the rails a bit.
Oh no. I'm scared.
Picks Flip Gordon.
What?
Hear me out.
Okay. Oh,
What made the Ric Flair match good? Having someone who could team with Flair to take the heat, which Flip Gordon, I don't know if you've seen, Cody used and abused him, Bully Ray did it. He's done a lot on the indies. What makes him a good connection to Hogan? He's in the military, so he's got the All-Americana thing. And that's where Hogan would go with it. I see a lot of me in you. You're not only good in this ring, but you're good for this country. I don't want someone that Jericho or Paul has talked to. I want you as my partner, brother. So clearly for the match, Flip Gordon just gets his shit kicked in. Hogan really doesn't get beat up too much. Maybe a punch here or there, a kick from Jericho. But then that's at the end of it. Hogan gets in the ring. Hogan, knocks Jericho out of it. Big Show's the legal man as he comes in, or Paul White, comes in. Flip Gordon kicks him down at the leg. Falls to one knee. Kicks him at the other leg. Falls to one knee. Hogan hits a big boot on the Big Show. Falls down. Jericho gets back in the ring. Hogan is then able to slam Jericho because he's not a fat piece of shit.
Okay.
They're both down. He points at Flip Gordon to say, you. Flip, wearing a t-shirt, tears it off. Flip and Hogan both bounce off the ropes, hit a leg drop. Flip hits it on Jericho. Hogan hits it on Paul White. 1, 2, 3. Hogan slayed another giant. He's won his last match. because Flip's there. They can pull the American flag out, wave it around. Red and yellow confetti comes down. But the celebration's not done yet, because then the knockoff NWO music that they've had to use all night hits, and the red and yellow confetti turns to black and white confetti as Hall, Pac, and Nash come out and celebrate with them. And then Hogan gets to enjoy his nice retirement. He was smart and he drank water the week before, so he didn't pass out in his match. Maybe he gets a little bit of color. Yeah.
Big brain Hawks.
But I mean, just a happy moment for Hogan. Gets to go out on top. Let's say in this situation, Nash brings him out one of the old WWF titles, drapes it over Hogan. Jimmy Hart then brings in one of the WCW titles, drapes it over Hogan. And the last shot is the flag waving above him, and he's got both his titles. That's when Starrcast fades to black.
Fucking Flip Gordon.
Flip Gordon.
What a guy.
That's right. The only guy that I could see that still had some sort of patriotic gimmick, because I guess it's really cool to hate America. I went back and forth.
In my head, I was just thinking, it's like, oh, it's the only guy that would say yes to teaming up with Hogan.
I went back and forth, and I thought maybe doing Jericho and Miro against Hogan and Paul White. But then you've got two people who can't work on one side of the ring. I thought about having an NWO thing, but people would want to see Hogan in red and yellow.
Right.
And that's why I thought having a Patriot. But then again, there's not a lot of like foreign menaces out there. A lot of them, weirdly enough, are like women.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this made the most sense to me, because I mean, like I said, I just liked the idea. Paul White being on his knees, Hogan gets to boot him, Jericho runs in, and then he can slam Jericho, and then the double leg drop, so Hogan hits all his moves. Like I said, you're gonna need someone for the heels to just beat the shit out of. That way Hogan can stand in the corner, his lips all pierced together, and give me the tag, Flip. Moving around, water falling off his hair. I think it'd be
At first, I thought you were gonna go like just Paul White versus Hogan with like I'm like, is he really gonna book a Big Show Hulk Hogan match right now? Like, oh no, he's gonna do a tag team. Okay, all right.
Yeah, like I said, I think Jericho. I mean, even if a couple of those AEW shows, maybe one of them happens on the Jericho Cruise, and maybe Hogan in the NWO invades the Jericho Cruise, and that's what really gets Jericho in the match. But just something. I just think that, like I said, having the right people, having experienced people on the opposite side of Hogan, and then having someone who can take the heat with Hogan, I think that's what would be needed. Like I said, the obvious answer would have been having Brutus Beefcake be his partner. But I just, I didn't want that. Like, I thought about the Flair match, and I thought about how at first it was supposed to be Flair and Rock and Roll Express against FTR and Ricky Steamboat. And I remember the shape Flair was in. I remember the shape, Ricky Morton was in. Ricky Steamboat's pushing 70. Robert Gibson doesn't even wrestle. Like, was I disappointed it wasn't that? Yes. In hindsight, am I happy that they had two good workers and Andrade? Yeah. No, do I think Hogan's last match is the obvious route to go? 100%. I mean, that's the only way. I've talked about it before. I think the reason Hogan wasn't involved is because it would have overshadowed Flair. Like there's only one guy that could do it, and it was Hogan.
Fuck it, just do Hogan Flair 101.
No, because we paid all that money for it to be Flair's last match.
I just mean you have to pay that much more money again. And go again.
That's a lot of monies.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, give Hogan his last minute in the spotlight. Taker had a good Boneyard match. Austin had a good final match. The Rock's supposed to get one. It's like the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, all having their final matches within a span of 5 years. Not too shabby. I mean, I could have went into detail and done a roast, but I figured Bully Ray would ruin this one too.
The roast of Hogan.
Yeah, I love you, brother. I don't know why everyone's hating you. God forbid I come up here and say we're celebrating a great wrestler, and now I'm gonna roast him. Instead, I have to, kiss his ass so I can get a paycheck. I figure the meet and greets. I mean, Hogan would be there. Jimmy Hart would be there. Nasty Boys, Beefcake, Valentine. I mean, like I said, I would try to make it Hogan centric. But that's just what the book says. The best book, I guess in this instance, Real American book.
A good book and a good brother.
Yeah, I mean,
you want the Good Brothers on the?
No.
Okay, just throwing it out there. Just wanted to know.
I mean, I guess at this point, shout out to Flip Gordon.
Yeah.
I've probably said your name and mentioned you a little more than you've been thought about in quite some time.
I forgot he existed, to be honest.
I'd say at one point he was looking to be a big ol' indie guy. He was in Villain Enterprises with Marty Scurll, but as of right now, I couldn't tell you what he's doing now that Ring of Honor's kind of in that catatonic state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Training with Hogan, apparently.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what he should be doing.
Yeah, and getting ready. Americana. Yeah, I mean, America, trying to be
just
on.
Have Hogan come out as Mr. America. If we're going to the full American thing.
There's a lot they could do. Will they do it? I don't know. Conrad has 50% of Jim Crockett Promotions.
Unfortunately.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, that's the other thing. The names I've heard before we go that Conrad wanted to have a final match. DDP, Harlem Heat. Why? No, you gotta do a big name.
You gotta put butts in seats, pal.
Yeah, and clearly my book's gonna do it. Or Conrad, you need a writer for your next Starrcast? Here I am. Flip Gordon, need a hype man? Here I am.
He's cheap.
Hulkster,
cheap.
Yeah, I just need tickets. Hulkster, keep doing you, brother. But until next time, this is, been me. The good book is closed. Any final thoughts from you, my friend?
I just can't wait to open the book again.
Hopefully the government doesn't ban it.